Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Gordon. This is my talk, Who Watches the Workmen? For background, I am a CTI analyst and security researcher. I've been focused on North Korea for probably close to 10 years. I've been doing this a while. I've got some certifications and some degrees, but I'm not going to go into it. Yeah, let's get this show on the road. This is my agenda. I'm going to be briefly talking about IT workers, what they are, how they work. I'll talk about some variation on their activity from companies, the initial lead and signature that kind of took me into the investigation, a whole bunch of pivots and findings. And then we'll go into the attribution discussion, which hopefully should be fun. And then I'll give you some takeaways at the end, so things that you can actually use from my presentation to be practical. All right, here we go. So North Korean IT workers, some of you may already know about this from other presentations, but North Korea sends thousands of IT workers around the world to various countries. Some actually operate from North Korea, but they apply for jobs at Western companies across every sector, every size of company, every type of company and organization. A significant amount of their paycheck is garnished and goes into paying for North Koreans' weapons programs. Because there's such a high volume of activity, there's a lot of variations. So they're on freelancer websites, they apply for permanent positions, and they also have front companies to help them get jobs. These are some front companies that were written up by SentinelOne. They just kind of lend some legitimacy and, are supposed to be reasons to get contract work. But another one of the front companies is this one, Hapanatech. This is actually a screenshot of their website on the left. There's not a lot to it, but there was some super interesting contact information, including an apparent address in New Jersey. So, if somebody wants to go check that out for me, let me know. Let me know what's there. But this is what their website looks like now. So they were their website was taken down by the FBI, and some folks wrote up. SentinelOne wrote up that a number of websites that were taken down, and this was kind of validation, for everybody that this is a North Korean website. But I was kind of tipped by another security researcher by the name of Bartosz, somebody else who focuses on North Korean hacking activity. And he said, hey, there's this tool made by Hapanatech that is in use by North Korean IT workers. Can you look for it in VirusTotal and let me know what you come across. So I wrote a Yara signature. For those who don't know, Yara is a logical language that matches on it matches on things that you might be interested in. So in this case, I wrote, I was looking for the word Hotman. I was looking for a couple things that I knew about it from basically a screenshot. I tuned out some false positives because I didn't want to have a noisy signature that was giving me hits on things that I'm not interested in. And it worked pretty well. So I found a few instances of Hotman. You can see the kind of triangular icon logo for it in the upper left. And Hotman doesn't work without some kind of key and password, which I didn't have, so I couldn't really get it working. But kind of looking at the guts, you kind of get a sense of what it does. It's built on WinPCAP, and it's a peer-to-peer communication application. So my understanding is North Korean IT workers would use this to either talk to each other, to chat with each other, or to talk to folks back home in North Korea, because presumably they can't just pick up the phone and dial. Also found a version of it called Net Provider, which was basically functionally identical, just had a slightly different user interface. It's a screenshot of it in the lower right-hand corner. What's super interesting, though, is I also found this, and this is an installer for Hotman. You can see the metadata on the right. It's made by Hapanatech. It's called hotman.exe. and it installs actual Hotmon. It's also got the word star in the metadata, which I'm not sure the significance of that, but North Korea does have a lot of things named star because the red star is kind of a symbol of the country. But yeah, so this installer, you'll notice that 50 security vendors flag this as malicious, even though it's installing a peer-to-peer communication tool, which is not ostensibly malicious. So why is it malicious? It's because it is backdoored. It drops a malicious batch file. The batch file creates an account, boot UEFI, and adds the password to it, 123456, which is the most hilarious password I have seen in a while. It gives that account admin rights and permissions to remote desktop, and sets Windows Defender to exclude System32 from scanning, and then reaches out for a second stage payload from the URL that you can see towards the bottom. I kind of want you guys to think about this for a second, but this is a tool made by IT workers that has malware in it. Like it infects anybody who installs it. So the significance of this is that this is an example of hacking activity targeting IT workers. It's not targeting anybody else because nobody else makes this tool or uses this tool. This is hacking activity exclusive to IT workers. So that's a huge, it's significant to me at least, because I had not run into this before. But let's pivot on things, see where else we go. So I pivot on metadata and the C2, and I find 4 other installers. The first one doesn't actually install an application, but it does call out to try to install the next stage payload from the same URL. I found an installer for IP message, which is a peer-to-peer another peer-to-peer communications client, similar to Hotmon. And I found installers for Google Update and WinRAR. My understanding from some other folks in the community is that North Korean IT workers, they don't have a budget. They don't have like some centralized place to install tools. So they're kind of grabbing stuff on the internet, and this is somewhat likely to infect them as a result. And that's also why they're installing, Google Update. But yeah, you can see all calling out to the same C2 IP address, or in one case, an adversary registered domain. This connected to a cluster written up by Cybele as HeptaX, which is the name that I started using for this threat actor. This is a campaign by HeptaX. Now, Cybele didn't really pivot all the way through this to find kind of where the significance of it and full understanding of it, but they were kind enough to show this notional infection chain that the threat actor used. Now, the phishing email here wasn't actually connected. There was no phishing email in VirusTotal for us to work with, but you could see from looking at the activity that it's a zipped LNK file linked to PowerShell, that there were some tools involved, including Lure documents and an open source credential theft tool called ChromePass for stealing creds out of browsers. That is very common for a lot of different threat actors. And that consistently, this activity led to the threat actor opening up remote desktop on the victim system for them to be able to basically remote it later. That's particularly significant also because if you open up remote desktop in a lot of enterprise environments, by making registry changes, that might not be enough, because a fair number of enterprises are going to have remote desktop kind of blocked on the firewall, except under certain circumstances, going to certain devices or, requiring multi-factor authentication. I hope, not everyone is, we'll say the state of security in various industries is not always what it should be, but that this suggests targeting of individuals as opposed to targeting of enterprise victims. All right. So some of the lures were also particularly interesting. Uh, so a lot of them were, vaguely cryptocurrency related, but if you look at them from the lens of this might be used against an IT worker, it kind of uh, it kind of makes sense. So, for example, the one on the left is a lure that mentions that communications should happen over Upwork, and that here's a project that we're interested in you working on. Um, that's very appealing to a North Korean IT worker. The one on the right is a job in the blockchain space, which also would be very appealing to a North Korean IT worker. Pivoting on the infrastructure was very easy. There's a lot of passive DNS overlap, and all the URLs were very, we'll say, um, they were the same URL structure most of the time. The threat actor had some very clear habits when it came to what registrar they preferred, as well as some very interesting choices when it came to the TLD, the extension for the domain. They had a strong preference for unusual TLDs. Pivoting in VirusTotal also gave me some more insight into their final stage Trojans, which were things like QuasarRat and WinVNC. These are freely available tools that QuasarRat's open source, so lots and lots of different threat actors have abused QuasarRat, both state-sponsored and criminal. WinVNC is a remote management and monitoring tool, an RMM, and also has been abused by a number of threat actors. This is kind of indicative of somebody who doesn't have a ton of resources and is using things that they can get for free off the internet. I also wanted to highlight that after the threat actor would compromise a victim, that they would perform these steps to query the system for local system configuration, network configuration, what was running, what accounts were present. This is a very, very common behavior for both North Korean actors, but also lots of other different kinds of actors, because when they land on a system, they want to know, is this a sandbox or is this a real victim that I'm interested in? And what opportunities are there for lateral movement or privilege escalation? And what defenses do I have to get around? And threat actors may not perform these exact queries, but if you're a network defender, you can look for a series of requests for this kind of information, and that can be a high quality detection for you, even though a lot of sysadmins do some wacky things on on various systems. All right, so some researchers did pick up pieces of this beyond Cybele. There was evidence of this threat actor compromising basically a VoIP server, a phone server, which is an interesting kind of target. Not usually something that would involve going after a particular individual. Normally go after that kind of VoIP server for that. Malware Hunter Team, which is a handy account to follow for kind of raw OSINT purposes, though they're on Twitter, and Twitter is hit or miss these days. They picked up both an interesting lure and LNK file, but also they noticed an open directory. An open directory it's a sign of sloppiness. The URLs and kind of using the password 123456 is also very sloppy. This is not what I would consider a very well-resourced threat actor, which kind of takes us into the attribution question. So when I thought, okay, this is suspected activity targeting North Korean IT workers, the first thing that comes to mind is this like a Western country trying to spy on the IT workers. And, there's a lot of situations where very, very capable threat actors will impersonate a less capable threat actor to try to, hide who they are. But I can't imagine basically apex level threat actor, a very well-resourced threat actor, deciding to be sloppy. Like that's hard for them to do. So they're not going to leave open directories. I can't imagine a meeting where NSA decides, okay, we're going to compromise a victim and change the admin password to 123456. Like that's not going to happen. So I don't think this is Five Eyes activity. I also have for years followed South Korean hacking activity. And the reason for that is, and to some degree this is public, there's evidence of South Korean hackers hacking activity impersonating North Korean hacking activity. So I've had to follow them in order to basically keep them separated, to not get confused. So I compared this cluster that we're looking at, the Hepta-X stuff, to these 3 South Korean APTs that have been reported widely, and they're not a clean match. So APTC 60 uses custom Trojans. They don't use open source Trojans like Quasar. Ramsey has a very characteristic spreader tool that basically when they compromise something, they want to get everything that's connected to it via, port 445 via SMB connections. So I didn't find any evidence of the Ramsey spreader in this activity. And Higaiza uses different kinds of infrastructure than this. They're more associated with dynamic DNS infrastructure. So I don't think any of these are the responsible threat actor. So who do I think is behind this? I think this is North Korean activity. So I did a diamond model comparison, adversary capability, victim, and infrastructure between Hepta-X and North Korea. And all of these things are things that I've observed from North Korean threat actors. Now, with that said, I am only at low confidence because all of these are very generic TTPs, techniques, tactics, and protocols. Lots of people could do any of these things, even though they all roughly point toward a North Korean threat actor. North Korean threat actors love Namecheap. That's common across a whole bunch of different APT groups. We've seen Kimsuki threat actors using Quasar. There's numerous examples of North Korean threat actors using LNK files to the point where there's one North Korean group called, Dangerous LNK or something like that. But one thing that kind of raised my confidence, still low, but raised my confidence slightly, is I found Astral VPN traffic to one of the adversary C2 nodes. So North Koreans have preference for Astral VPN, but they're not exclusively using it. There are a number of other VPN clients in use. And while it would not be unusual for somebody else to use a VPN client when connecting to a victim, it would be kind of unusual for other folks to have the good enough OPSEC to use Astral VPN to connect to their own C2 nodes in order to be obfuscate who they are. So this raised my confidence level slightly, even though it's still at low. So what's the so what of my presentation? So every threat actor needs to orient themselves after they get access. So that's something that defenders should look for. This is yet another way of open source tools and remote management tools being abused, even though I'm not interested in getting into a DOST argument with folks. A number of vendors did not connect the dots on this activity, and partly this because they didn't pivot well enough, and in one case, basically CrowdStrike, it's because they are incentivized to make more use of internal data, their proprietary data, rather than open source data or external data, and so they missed it. But also, I wanted folks to take away that if this is North Korea, that this is a common attribute of authoritarian governments, that they spy on people working for them because they're naturally suspicious and paranoid, and they need to we'll say, punish people for not insufficient loyalty. And that concludes my presentation. I guess I have a minute or two for questions. Any questions? Go with maybe. All right, no questions. Thank you guys so much for giving me the chance to present. It's been a pleasure to be part of this, and yeah, I'll see you guys around.